First of all, we're going to talk about a familiar subject for YouTube. And I don't know how many you people have safety inspection in your state. Pennsylvania, um, it's turned into sort of a scam. They know you, they got you, especially during hard times. We just had a young lady. She again went to where I told her not to go, tire and battery place, and they raked her over the coals for just windshield wipers and some simple things. And two tires, her bill was over $750. And she's like, I can't afford this. I don't know who she called. She did get her car back. So, okay. Pennsylvania's made a racket out of state inspection. Not to mention they put this, what they call brine on the roads, and they give it all kinds of cute little names. It's sodium cyanide. You wonder why the cancer rate is out of hand here in Pennsylvania? Because all that stuff that they put on the roads washes into the water supply. They're not that swift in this state, none of them. That's why I said about engineers and stuff at these liberal colleges and things like that. It's really terrible. Orange Cat's here to say hi. A couple people asked where he's been. He's been in the office. Most of the time he's out here on patrol. Mises to pieces all over the place. Say, you're number one mouser. He's definitely got the Mouser Award. I'm serious. He leaves a trail of destruction every other day. There's dead mouse here. Yeah, dead mouse there. So, talk about another fail. This is my third belt for Walmart this summer, right? Let's talk about a familiar company. One of the companies that produces a nice, heavy, decent fitting panel, except when I screw things up like I did with that cab corner, and probably going to leave it like that. But this is a nice truck. Cash for Clunkers took a lot of these trucks off the road and these state inspection scams. This is how I received my panels. Now, this comes from a company. This is actually a Capital Auto Part. They're actually a certified auto part. CHL. It was Capital something back in the day, and in Chicago, whatever. See, I'm looking for the name on here. It's not. But here's your logo. These are marketed by Classic to Current Fabrication, and this panel was all scarred up, and so were the cab corners. They were very ill packed in the box. Now they weren't bent or tweaked or anything, but one thing a shop like mine hates, especially if you got to pull a truck out that you're working on into the weather and you got bare exposed metal. Ooh, that pisses me off. And I don't want them to come in the box with bare exposed metal, because it's bad enough when you got to cut panels and tool panels and treat the edges and stuff like that. It's just not fair to the consumer. But one thing about these trucks is these engines are very simple to work on, and this has a good wrench target motor. Or they used to call them target motors. This has a good wrench motor in it, and I was very sorry that they did the Mexican tune-up with the spray paint on. They could have just left it pretty much original. I'm going to clean it up some, and I do have a performance throttle body that I'm going to put on that, and a performance air cleaner. But that's all months down the road, so I'm going to have to register this while my other shop truck's down. I'm probably going to try to get that motor done. It's going to be a warm winter, so I might have some good working weather to get that motor together and then get it in next summer. But with all these failures, I can't clean up my shop. That's my next mission today, is I got to finish cutting some grass and stuff the next couple days. I don't know what the track of this storm is. They're calling for rain one minute, the next minute, I don't know. You can't even remember what I said about the news. I mean, even YouTube's getting a little putrid, especially when they're dumping this fake news on Trump that he's a convicted felon. Well, guess what? 5-panel judge said he's not a convicted felon, and he's not guilty of any fraud. What's going on is disgusting. Vote Republican, please. November 5th is coming up, and stop buying into the scams. And yes, weaponized weather is real. I post to a lot of people because they don't know who I am. They don't watch my channel, but I talk about two geriatric boobs. We weren't geriatric back in the day, but these guys are like 10 years older than me, 12. Tim Finch and Zach Modi, they've been gurus. They invented that inflatable, invisible drone the CIA and the FBI uses. Can't see the thing, even during the day. It'll turn invisible. So it has some sort of chemical composition that it changes into another form. that you can't really see it. It adapts basically the light of the environment around it. These guys have brains probably 5 times bigger than mine. Um, you can bring Joe Biden here. I can check the connectivity of his brain cells, the continuity, because I don't think there is any. I'll put my new scanner on them. But these two guys, if I check their continuity, it'd break my scanner. It'd go off the. These guys have thought up gags on the Navy ships. They've played it on the captains, COs, and a lot of officers on board those ships. These guys get away with stuff nobody else will do simply because there really aren't many other men like these people. But I was proud to work with the guys. So accept it that Cash for Clunkers has taken a lot of these old trucks off the road. Okay, this old girl's getting back in form, and I've got a lot of work to do. Kind of like this Ford. I'm gonna replace everything but the seat and the steering wheel it came with. Um, we managed to fix the mirror. We managed to fix the cab bushings. We got the new radiator in it, and we did get her running. She does run. She does start. And she has all the problems. I think I discussed that in my other video with this, my son's Silverado. She has. These trucks have all the ideal earmarks, and that's when people bring something here. And why does it need that? Because if it doesn't need it now, it's going to need it either after I take it apart and work on it. Just order it. Because a lot of people, they have an apprehension to handing me money. Well, I like to have everything I need before I start the job. And part of the problem is wrong parts, broken parts, or shit like this. Because I would not put that on a customer's car. I would have sent that back and told them, send me a pair that's properly packaged. But this is my truck, and I'm just going to have to deal with it and bite the bullet. But as far as what I'm telling people is this industry is really hitting the skids. And, I tell these people, hey, I need money and I need it now because it takes so long to get stuff. Just like Chrysler, if you want a good galvanized fender, there's a company up in Ontario, New York up there, or I think it's Ontario, Canada. I don't think it's Ontario, New York. I think it's Ontario, Canada. They make a nice, heavy, well-fitting fender. It is aftermarket, but actually body shops prefer those panels, and I prefer them too. They're not embossed. These are a zinc panel when you get them. They have a zinc chromate on them, and you have to use like a polyester binding agent, like a self-etching primer, basically. It takes any of the acidity from. What happens with zinc chromate is it'll just start sucking in the primer, and then you'll start getting ripples when you paint over it. Even though maybe even if you sanded it, you're still going to see ripples. It's gonna look like you went over it with a texture roller. And that's what happens. So if you seal it with the polyester and you leave them dry maybe a day or two and then sand the polyester and put a binder like, an epoxy primer or a high yield primer over it, a high build primer, sand that and shoot them, that's the way to deal with those fenders. So they are a little fickle to work with, but they don't rot right out, especially those Dodges. They get the rot in the front of the fender, not in the back of the fender, but the front up there by the headlight, it just disintegrates. Well, that's a trait of Chrysler and Chrysler fenders, but the stuff that I get out of Ontario, Canada up there, which is probably a branch of this company, because I have gotten those panels in other boxes. So I don't know if they're the only ones around, but they're 8 to 10 weeks out, because I called them on Friday. I even called Raybucks, and even Raybucks, they don't have I think it's a 2016 Dodge. But anyway, they don't have the fenders. They produce them and then they ship them. So this guy's just going to have to hold on to his cheeks, or he can take it somewhere else and they can put the cheap Chinese junk on his truck. Either way, I'm not putting it on, because I'm not going to. Nobody has come back yet with my work rotting. I mean, if it's 5 or 6 years and you get a spot, well, you're going to get a spot. But everything I've done so far, it's not rotting through. It's undercoated. I go through this wool wax like I'm drinking this shit. So listen to my videos and my advice on these state inspection scams. Basically, I'm probably going to register that Classic. I'm just going to eat the check, send the check in. I'm going to have to do it. I really don't have much of a choice. And I did have to cut the front drive shaft off of these. Another trait of these trucks is that actuator, and somebody cut the wiring harness apart for that beautifully. And then I had to cut the drive shaft off because it was all seized up. That's another trait of these trucks. And did I make a mistake? I made it. They should put instructions in the box fine lines. This is my closing of my videos, because if I had an inclination, I would have bolted the lines to the tank. But it makes it very difficult getting that tank back up in there if you don't have help and another set of hands. Now, my neighbor did help me, but even though I think I misinstalled, maybe went about it the wrong way, because I connected the lines front to back instead of back to front and at the coupling. Okay, I put it together at the coupling and fed the lines down. But even though that line is it's about 16 inches, 18 inches too short. All right, we're getting wind, so you're probably not going to be able to hear me. Okay, so I'm going to end my video there. Thanks.